The sun was barely up, painting the lake behind my house a bruised shade of purple, when Karen's voice sliced through the morning quiet like a chainsaw. "You can't fish here," she barked, her neon visor cocked like a weapon, clipboard clutched against her starched polo. I froze, my fishing rod trembling in my hands, the lure bobbing uselessly in the water. My lake, my property, my sanctuary. And here was Karen, the HOA's self-appointed sheriff, telling me I was breaking some obscure rule she'd probably scribbled in crayon the night before. The air smelled of damp earth and her overpowering lavender perfume, a sickly sweet assault that made my stomach churn. I wanted to scream, to tell her this was my land, my home, my damn lake. But her pen was already scratching out a fine. Her lips curled in that smug, gotcha grin. That was the moment I knew Karen had started a war, and I wasn't about to lose. I'd moved to Willow Creek 2 years ago, chasing peace after a decade in the city's grind. The lake was why I bought this place, 10 acres of shimmering water, fringed by willows that swayed like they were whispering secrets. I'd sit out there at dawn, casting my line, listening to the soft plop of the lure and the distant call of a loon. It was my reset button, my therapy. But the Homeowners Association, led by Karen Whitaker, had other plans. She was the kind of woman who'd measure your grass with a ruler and fine you for a blade over 3 inches. Her emails were novellas of passive-aggressive bile, her voice a nasal drone that could make a saint snap. She'd been gunning for me since I refused to paint my mailbox regulation beige. Now, this fine $500 for unauthorized recreational use of a private water body was her latest power trip. I stood there, the paper crumpled in my fist, the ink smudging under my thumb, and felt something ignite inside me. Not just anger, purpose. I called my buddy Nate that night, pacing my kitchen, the lake glinting like a promise through the window. Nate's a contractor, the kind of guy who can build a skyscraper or a treehouse with the same grin. "She thinks she can control my lake?" I said, my voice tight, the words spilling out like they'd been bottled up too long. "I'm done playing nice." Nate laughed, that low, gravelly chuckle that always meant trouble. "What's the plan, Jack?" he asked. I didn't know yet, but I could feel it forming, sharp and bright, like a blade being honed. I wasn't just going to fight Karen. I was going to outsmart her. I was going to make her regret ever stepping onto my dock. The next morning, I dug into the Homeowners Association bylaws, my coffee going cold as I pored over pages of jargon. The fine print was a maze, but I found my loophole. The lake was mine, deeded to my property, and the Homeowners Association had no jurisdiction over it. Karen's fine was a bluff, power grab, but instead of just fighting the fine, I decided to go bigger, much bigger. I turned the lake into something she couldn't control, a business, a destination, a middle finger to her clipboard. I called Nate back, and by noon, we were sketching plans on napkins. A small resort, eco-friendly cabins, a dock for rentals, maybe even a cafe. The lake was zoned for commercial use if I jumped through a few hoops. I'd make it a place people loved, a place they'd pay to visit. And the Homeowners Association, they'd have to pay too. Weeks blurred into a frenzy of permits, blueprints, and late-night calls. My savings took a hit, but every dollar felt like a bullet in my arsenal. Nate brought in his crew, and soon the lake's edge was alive with the buzz of saws and the thump of hammers. The air smelled of sawdust and possibility, though my hands shook every time I checked my bank account. Karen noticed, of course. She'd drive by in her golf cart, her visor glinting like a warning flare, scribbling notes with that same smug grin. One day, she cornered me by the half-built dock, her voice dripping with fake concern. "This looks ambitious, Jack," she said, her eyes narrowing. "I hope you've cleared this with the board." I smiled, tight-lipped, and said, "Oh, Karen, I've cleared everything." She didn't know I'd already filed the paperwork, crossed every T. She thought she had me. She was wrong. Then came Lila. She showed up one muggy afternoon, her boots caked in mud, her hair a wild tangle of curls. She was a landscaper, hired by Nate, but she was more than theta force. All sharp wit and quiet fire. She'd grown up on a farm, knew every plant by name, and had a way of looking at you like she could see straight through your bullshit. Heard you're sticking it to some homeowners association tyrant, she said, tossing a shovel into the dirt with a clang. I laughed, the first real laugh in weeks, and told her the story. She listened, her eyes glinting with mischief, and said, "Let's make this place so beautiful she chokes on her own rules." Lila wasn't just a hire. She became my ally, my spark. We'd work late, her humming old country songs under her breath, the lake reflecting the stars like it was cheering us on. Once, as we planted willows along the shore, she brushed my arm, her fingers warm and calloused, and I felt my chest tighten not just from the fight, but from something softer, something I hadn't let myself feel in years. Karen fought back. Of course. Fines piled up, noise violations, unapproved structures, even a citation for excessive tree planting. Each one was a jab, but I parried with lawyer letters and county approvals. The neighborhood started buzzing. Some sided with Karen, clutching their pearls over property values. Others, the ones who'd been fined for their kids' lemonade stands or non-compliant porch lights, started slipping me coffee and whispered encouragement. One old guy, Mr. Hensley, brought me a thermos of bourbon one night and said, "Give her hell, kid." I sipped it by the lake, the burn in my throat matching the fire in my gut. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone Karen had bullied. By spring, Willow Lake Resort was born. For cabins, a dock with kayaks, a cafe serving Lila's mom's pecan pie recipe. Opening day was chaos, cars lined the road. Kids laughed as they splashed in the shallows, and the air smelled of grilled burgers and fresh-cut grass. I stood on the dock, watching families paddle out, their voices carrying over the water like music. Lila nudged me, her shoulder warm against mine, and said, "You did this, Jack." I shook my head. We did this. But Karen wasn't done. She showed up at noon, her clipboard replaced by a megaphone, demanding we shut down for unpermitted commercial activity. The crowd went quiet, the air thick with tension. I could hear my own heartbeat, steady but loud, like a drum. I stepped forward, holding up my permits, my voice calm but iron. "Karen, this lake is mine. The resort is legal. And if you or the homeowners association want to enjoy it, you'll need to buy a pass like everyone else." Her face went red, then white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. The crowd murmured, then cheered, a wave of sound that hit me like a gust of wind. Karen turned on her heel, her visor slipping, and stormed off. That night, I got a call from the county. The homeowners association was under investigation, turns out. Karen's fines weren't just petty. Some were illegal, skimming money for her own accounts. She was fined, stripped of her position, and last I heard, she'd moved to a condo in Florida, far from any lakes. I stood on the dock at sunset, the water rippling gold, Lila beside me. The air smelled of pine and pie, the loons calling in the distance. "Worth it?" she asked, her voice soft. I thought of the fines, the sleepless nights, the fight. Then I thought of the families laughing, the neighbors free from Karen's reign, the lake alive again. "Every damn second," I said, and she smiled, her hand brushing mine. Sometimes, justice isn't just winning. It's building something better, something that lasts. And as the sun sank, painting the lake in fire, I knew we'd done just that.